Good morning. I'm Emelina Minero with The Human Experience, and we're here with Florencia Manovil. And she is the producer and the director and the lead writer of web series Dyke Central, as well as you're working on some other films, or you have been, or web series Throw Like a Girl.
I produced that.
And then you also you directed and wrote, I just had it on the top of my head, Fiona's Script.
Yeah.
And then you're also working on Star-Crossed, another film. What was your
Yes.
role in Star-Crossed?
Sorry.
What's your role in Star-Crossed?
It's my script, and I
Nice.
am trying to direct it and not produce it.
Uh-huh.
That would be great if I could find a producer. Yeah.
So, how did you get involved in film initially? I saw that you went to school in Boston for film, and then you moved down to Oakland. So what impassions you about film, and how did you initially get into it?
It's always been, like the love of my life, just as a kid and teenager. And, when it comes to that point where you're supposed to decide what you want to do, I came to the States because here you can kind of start studying without really knowing what you want to do. And, I just put film down because it was the only thing. I was like, well, I'll just film and then I'll figure out what I'm going to do. And then I was like, oh, you can actually do film and like study film. And it was a no-brainer. Yeah, it was great to be like surrounded by other people who were obsessed with movies and stuff. I just didn't even know that was like an option. So,
What's
yeah.
the film culture like in Argentina?
It's actually it's definitely vibrant, but I didn't know anybody. Like my family is not definitely all academics, so I didn't know anybody who was in any kind of creative field. So, but there is a lot of filmmaking happening there, and there's a really good university of film. Yeah, but I didn't really get in touch with any of that until I went back and visited and then met some people who had studied film. Yeah.
So then, your web series Dyke Central, it's based in Oakland. Oh, not Oakland, Oakland. I'm from the Bay Area too. Um, and and so it seemed when I watched it, the first episode, it seemed like that was kind of a character as well in the web series. And so I wanted to know what your experience was like in the different queer communities from the places you lived. So I saw that you lived in Boston, New York, Oakland, and Argentina. So how do you compare those different communities?
Well, I definitely can't speak to the queer community in Argentina because I left before I came out. So now, I mean, when I visit, I am peripherally involved. Like I know people who are out and stuff, but I can't speak to that personally. But I think, well, in Boston, it's definitely, I was involved in, like, it was queer community that was also kind of like radical activists. So it was very small and very niche in a way, and it was great, but it's a little like homogenous, and that said, some of my closest friends are from that world that or that we all came out of that, and also I think, yeah, and then in New York, it's New York is such a hodgepodge, and there's just so many people doing so many different things that I think queer culture just kind of is one of those things. And it's completely different from the Bay Area where it's like the thing, and it's like that's where everybody comes. A lot of people come because it's such a safe haven for queerness, and that you don't have to, I mean, of course, this is a blanket generalization, but like being oppressed because of being queer is not like at the center of your existence here. You can just like go about your life without having to fight those like very basic battles, if that makes sense. So I feel like in a way here, like, and I think it's also just a West Coast thing, but life is just much more about celebration, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just there are so many so many queer people of so many different kinds, all from all over the gender spectrum and all kinds of orientations, that I think it just allows us to get past like the first initial, like the basic struggles in this little bubble, and just flourish more, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
said in Boston the queer community is more homogenous. One thing I noticed in Dyke Central was that there was like Alex's community and then her girlfriend's community. They kind of seemed a little at ends. And then there was kind of like the San Francisco versus Oakland thing going on.
Yeah.
Is that, can you tell me more about that, or how you why you incorporate that into the web series?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, it's very interesting that even though it's just such a like huge, vibrant queer culture, but at the same time, there's all of these little worlds and like bubbles within the bubble, and like these little cliques, and that's also really interesting because sometimes, you'll think that you know every single person within your world, but then you like step into a different queer world, and it's just a whole different set of people who have slightly different values and codes, and it's just different, and I think it has to do with well, I don't know. I could go on. I could like think about this and tell you what I think are the things that separate or create these little cliques. I think there's definitely a location thing. San Francisco and Oakland queers and dykes are different and have different experiences and different lifestyles, even, maybe not hugely different, but and then I think there's just different levels of maybe even like income levels, and or values related to socioeconomic status. So there are lots of little worlds in here, and it's just there are just so many queer people that you can have all of these little worlds within the larger community, and there's just, that exists. Yeah.
That's cool. There's so many, it's such variety, and all within the Bay Area too.
Yeah.
And then one thing I noticed, one of the comments, I forget the character's name, but the guy was called like the Castro guy. And how he's like saying how, Oakland's like kind of dangerous. Is that something that you want to touch upon in the web series, like that kind of stereotype of Oakland being this dangerous place?
Yeah, because I think most of us who live here, even though, I think most, urban conglomerations are dangerous because, for lots of different reasons, but Oakland has a bad rap, and I think most of us living here love the city and are much more focused on all of the beautiful things about it, like the diversity and like all of the multicultural elements and the art and the amazing weather. I think we definitely it is. I think, like you said, Oakland is a character in Dyke Central, and it was important for all of us making this that Oakland be showcased for like all its beauty, and all of that, and we can make fun of that stereotype because it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
And so it's cool how just diverse the cast is, racially diverse, diverse in gender, just all around. And so why was that important for you to showcase that diversity?
Well, first off, because that's what my group of friends looks like, and I think, I've said this a lot of times, but that diversity is really lacking in other media that's out there, and that's really frustrating, when you're like sitting there with your group of friends and you're like, oh, there's like nobody on TV that looks or talks or thinks like any one of us, I don't know, I don't exist in any kind of homogenous, community, so I I wouldn't be inclined to depict one that is. So yeah.
And then Mina Films, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was reading your about page, and it was saying how you're passionate about social justice, environmentalism, and that you're also a nutrition writer and a translator and a subtitler, and then a mother. Do these different identities play into the work that you create, or play into Dyke Central, or will they come out?
I think Dyke Central is a little more limited than the rest of my work. I feel like, I generally have just one female character that is to some percentage autobiographical, but with Dyke Central, first off, because it was a co-creation, and also because I felt like the reason for doing a series as opposed to like, a little film that could just be like my baby and it can have its own pace. But the reason for doing a series for me personally was, it was something that people wanted to see, and I had been approached like so many different times by people saying like, you should do this, and it first made me angry because I think people don't realize how much work it takes to do something like that. Everybody has an idea to do something, and I'm like, do you want to spend the next 5 years doing this, but because it was kind of like prompted by that, and just by our collective, frustration with what's out there, I didn't want to make something that was like super personal, but more of like a reflection of my community and my observations of like relationship and power dynamics, and and just all the drama, the funny, interesting, hilarious, tragic drama, in our community. So because of that, I think Dyke Central is less, even though there's always little elements, and I think when I write a character, I always have to base it on somebody I know, because this just makes it feel more real to me, and then I make like specific adjustments so that it's not that person and it becomes its own character. But my other movies or projects or scripts are more specifically, maybe like I am also working on a feature that is like pretty autobiographical, even though I'm changing some stuff about like motherhood, and like being a single queer mom. So that like is more, directly related to my experience. And then I'm actually trying to shoot a short this year that is about, like certain like very Latino specific things that I want to like explore, Yeah.
So are those already in the filming stage or the writing stage right now?
Let's see. They are in the writing stage. One of them, the Latino short, I'm hoping to go into pre-production soon. Sorry.
That's cool.
And then the script is in development, so it's halfway written, that script, and then I always have many things in the in the air, and then Star-Crossed is fully written and I'm looking for funding, actively. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what in Dyke Central? What character has like a small aspect of you?
Well, I think Fabiana is loosely based on, or was initially loosely based on me. The more you write, the more they become their own person. So I would say Fabiana is the most, but then there's always like little parts of you that end up in different characters. Yeah.
And I just had like 3 different questions all at once when you were talking. I'm trying to remember what they were. I so wanted to know them. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm blanking, but I know they'll come back.
Okay.
You said you're working on a film that's about a queer mom?
Yeah.
So what's your experience with being a queer mom? Like, do you feel it's like different interactions with people, you know, who don't have kids, or do you find that you gravitate towards other queer women? Like, how does that identity impact your connections within the queer community?
Well, it's interesting. You know, I'm bisexual, so I had like I had a kid with a cisgendered man who is also bisexual, actually. But so there's definitely I don't know. There's shifts. Like when the baby is a baby, it's a very it's kind of a very specific kind of experience. I think, you know, bisexual discrimination is very real. So it was really difficult for me to start dating, you know, in that regard, because like it's like because the baby was very young, it's like I had recently been it was obvious that I had recently been with a guy, and you know, some queer women are very discriminatory about that. The older my kid got, I mean, it's really hard to tease out, because I really, like, becoming a mother made me a much more confident woman, you know? And so I think that's also, it also affected my interactions, and, like, my dating life, you know, with queer women. But yeah, I mean, I definitely have gravitated a lot more towards people with kids, you know, because it's, even though most of my friends don't have kids, but then you just are living a very, very different lifestyle from people who don't have kids, and it gets a little exhausting trying to, like, explain why you can't go out on a Wednesday night or whatever, and why you're tired all the time, and why, you know, there's things that, like, you just have a different set of needs, you know, and maybe even different set of interests. Like, I started reading a lot about, I just, like, delved into, you know, I was really interested in, like, parenting, like, psychology and sort of theories and all that stuff, and you don't really want to talk about that stuff with somebody who doesn't want to have kids, you know, because people are like, oh, I think blah, 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 and you're like, fuck you, I just finished reading 3 books about this and spent, like, 2 months reading about it, and you just, like, offhandedly are, like, giving you a random comment, you know? So there's, like, that kind of sort of division, you know? Yeah, and then, you know, for me personally, I just had to realize that I am suddenly a role model, so just kind of becoming a more, like, consistent person and congruent with my values, and yeah, I don't know how that ties into, like, queerness or not. That said, you know, I've always really wanted to explore my kid to, like, all sorts of people, and like, I don't, you know, she's somebody who knows stuff from experience and not from theory. Like, oh, there's different kinds of gender expressions. Like, I don't have to teach her that, because she has all these people in her life. So, so that's great. And I think a lot of people in our community, actually, because of being queer, have either been shunned out from their families, or don't have, like, too much, or they don't live where their extended families live, so they're not with their, you know, with like, kids in their family or something. So I think a lot of people are really excited about being in kids' lives, and that's been exciting, you know, for me and for my kid who loves people. So yeah, those are some scattered thoughts on the subject. Cool.
It's kind of like a nice big extended family in Oakland.
Yes, right, exactly.
And then bisexuality, that is, like, unfortunately, like, a hot button topic within the queer community. Is that something that you'd want to explore in your films or in Dyke Central?
Bisexuality? Yeah, I mean, I always have a bisexual character in my movies. Fiona's script, she's bisexual. Unfortunately, like, I encountered this with Fiona's script. It's like, some people are still like who don't get bisexuality are still not gonna get your bisexual characters. You know, like I had this dude write a review about Fiona's script that was like, she doesn't know which to pick, and I'm like, she's just bisexual. Just let her be bisexual. Like it's so not about that, you know. But yeah, Fabiana is bisexual. And we'll definitely make sure that she's like a practicing bisexual because, you know, I don't, you know, like the L Word had one supposed bisexual character and then she like gay, like she was like really biphobic towards her friend later and never ever dated like a cisgendered man or even like a trans man. And she was pretty like transphobic too. So it was really weird to me because I'm like, that's not a real bisexual. You know what I mean? I don't know any bisexuals who are either biphobic or transphobic. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but so it's important. So Fabiana is bisexual, and actually, Zach, the therapist, he's like pansexual and dates people of multiple genders.
That's cool.
Yeah, and the movie that's like about motherhood is definitely like. Her queerness and bisexuality is a very important part of that.
That's really cool. I think it's really important for what, like you said in your About page, that you want to bring underrepresented people in media, and even within the queer community, there's, like you said, there's lots of bigotry. So within the queer community, there's lots of underrepresented subcultures. It's exciting that that's what you're bringing out.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you said that producing is it sounds arduous, and you really like the writing and directing more.
Well, I never intended to produce my own stuff, but I just do because I have to. But it's I'm like looking for a producer, not just for Dyke Central, but just like I have my cinematographer that I work with, and I have my editor, you know, and I still haven't found like the producer. Yeah, but yeah, I ended up being the default producer, and at first I had like such resistance around it that it was really difficult, and I was like trying to get other people to produce, but then I realized I was doing like the producer work, so then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna call myself the producer until somebody comes along and takes over these main like huge tasks and is like help with me like the thread from like pre-production through to like distribution. Yeah, but that said, you know, like I said, I produced the Throw Like a Girl pilot, and I think because of having been like default producer for my own projects, that I have learned a lot about production, and if I am just producing somebody else's thing, that can be fun. And I definitely enjoyed being the producer for Throw Like a Girl, and was like proud of the project getting done. So.
What are the I guess what's the word? I'm going blank on the word. Tasks isn't it, but kind of tasks. So what are the tasks of a producer?
A producer, basically the producer is responsible for bringing together all of the like logistical elements, so that the director can bring together all of the creative elements. So, you know, the producer would oversee, and on a small level would even be responsible for, I would say, you know, location scouting, the budget, making sure that we are within the budget, not necessarily fundraising, not necessarily, but just like creating the budget, any contracts, any hirings, like any dealing, like getting the crew together, you know, making sure that the crew like is all on the same page. Technically, they would oversee the. Well, I don't know. I mean, this aspect, the scheduling, I'm a little untraditional in that because I come from an assistant directing background, which is like the person who does the budget, the schedule. I actually generally do my own schedule, do the schedule for the movie. But, you know, they would oversee, like, scheduling and all of that stuff, like communications. They would, like, anything that's, like, legal paperwork, like the insurance, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Which role is your favorite in the behind the scenes process of making a film?
Well, if it's my own project, then definitely directing. And if when I worked on like other movies, I do enjoy assistant directing, which I don't do anymore because it's a very intensive role. But the scheduling and like figuring out how to fit in all the pieces. That I really enjoy. I also really liked script supervising, which is basically like doing continuity, and yeah, and that's, I would say, I mean, I used to work in the camera department a long time ago, but I think that if you're gonna do that, that's what you gotta focus on, because, every year there's like technological developments. You just have to like stay really up to date with stuff. And I still will always love camera, and I have like a photography background, but I've decided not to take that path. So yeah.
So Dyke Central, the first episode's out to the public, and then episode 2 and 3 you recently showed, and you're going to show again on the 15th.
On the 15th, we're showing episode 2. Basically, episode 2 is showing as a short in like some like shorts program. So Fusion, which is a subset of Outfest, the LA LGBTQ Film Festival. Fusion is the people of color subset of Outfest. So they have like a special weekend long spring festival before Outfest in the summer. So we're screening at Fusion this Saturday, March 15th at 6 p.m. At the Egyptian. I'm really excited because I haven't screened at Fusion before, and I haven't screened at the Egyptian. And then we're actually screening at Dinah Shore, which, and that's super exciting. I've never been to Dinah Shore.
Me neither.
And also, our group, our crew, our cast and crew members are very excited. So there will be cast members at both the LA screening and Dinah Shore. So Dinah Shore should be really interesting. None of us have been, so we don't really know what to expect. And I think it's only their second year having the film festival. So, and which is mostly a queer female web series showcase. So that's really exciting and fun, because then we'll get to meet everybody else who's doing similar things. Although I think we're the ones that have like the biggest cast, and it's probably like the longest episodes. And then in the summer, I'm not allowed to say, but there will be more screenings and of more episodes.
Nice.
And then after those screenings in the summer, we're going to release at least episode 2, maybe 3 on the internet. And the plan is to finish shooting the rest of the season at the end of summer, and then do a DVD release at the end of the year.
Oh, nice.
For like.
Is it going to be a 5-episode season?
10.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So we actually already shot 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
And we're in post. I'm editing right now 4 and 5. So 4 and 5 will be also screening at live venues over the summer. But I know it's like just select, people who live in those cities get to see those. But yeah, by the end of the year, by Christmas, people should be able to just order the box set and watch the whole first season all at once.
That's cool. That's good timing too for Christmas.
Yeah.
But this past February, was that the first time that you showed the pilot episode to a group of people?
Well, in February, we showed episodes 2 and 3. The pilot, actually, we did a similar event, like a big premiere event at the Grand Lake Theater, which is like a huge theater here in Oakland, October of 2011.
Okay.
And then we did the pilot premiere, and people loved it and the whole thing. So what we did in February was a very similar thing, but with episodes 2 and 3. But as you know, the pilot is on YouTube, so people can watch the YouTube pilot. Although, and I know a lot of filmmakers feel this way, but it is episodes 2, 3, and the new ones are actually a lot better. Like are better quality. So even though I love the pilot for what it is, but it's quite flawed, and the new ones are better. Yeah.
What is it like being with people in the same room and having you see them interact and take in your work?
Well, with Dyke Central, it's actually okay. Like, it's okay. I would say, like, Fiona's script was my first time, experiencing that, and it was nerve-wracking for, like, 2 years, and then with the Dyke Central pilot, it was nerve-wracking, too. And I think now, at least with Dyke Central, I'm more okay with it, because it's, at least here, when we screened here, it's like, it's about people. Like I know that they'll get all of the references and jokes and, like, the characters, even the dynamics between, it's like, it's like coming home, in that sense. So I actually wasn't really nervous when we screened here. Those episodes, it's pretty great. It's pretty great, when people laugh and stuff, and, like, people make sounds that, make you think that they appreciate or get certain things. Still nerve-wracking, but yeah, it's even another, my preference is to hear, like, later, you know what I mean, when people are like, so and so came up to me, and, like, when they give you, like, real feedback, and they're like, they loved this and they loved that, like, that's great, that's nice, and then they're like, they totally, when people, like, really get it, really get, like, what you were trying to do, that's awesome. Yeah.
So for the Dinah Film Festival, you mentioned about how it's going to be interesting to be around all these other queer female, largely web series creators. So what about that are you looking forward to?
Well, it's just nice. I mean, this, living in the Bay Area, it's not like I live in Hollywood, so there's not really too many people that are doing what I do, so it can be really isolating. You're like, I mean, and when we shoot, we're like this crew, and we've all been experiencing the same thing, and then you go out into your community, and, like, nobody really knows what the hell you do, you know what I mean, or anything. So it's nice to be around other filmmakers, and it's like, like, you get it, you know what I mean? Like, you get what our lives are like, So I really enjoy that. That's special for me, because I don't come across that a lot other than at film festivals. I think just, like, a celebration. I'm also, I think episode 2 is so much stronger than the pilot, and there's a lot of buzz in the Bay Area, but I'm really excited to, like, just, like, meet other people, be like, hey, check out what we've been doing, it's pretty cool. And we're, like, such a tight-knit group, and, like, I think I love my cast so much, like, I want to, like, show them off, you know what I mean? I'm like, check out these awesome people that I have, and that sort of thing, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, definitely. Having some drinks and relaxing, that would be nice, too. Yeah.
I think there'll be plenty of opportunity for that to Dinah.
Yes, so it appears, yes.
What kind of things have you heard about the Dinah Shore?
Well, just wild parties, drunkenness, I think, but I'm assuming that since it's, like, such a huge event, there's always people that are not doing that, you know what I mean? There's always, like, other stuff, because, I like a party, but I don't know if I can party for 2 days straight. That's not really what I'm doing either. But I just like the buzz, of, like, people. And we're staying, like, 6 of us are staying in like, an Airbnb spot. So I think that'll be, like, really fun to go with, like, the other Dyke Central people and just, this, like, it's the, the cinematographer is coming, and people like that, and it'll be just fun to, like, get to celebrate without, and not just, like, oh, we've been working for 14 hours, so yeah, that kind of thing.
That'd be really cool. That's a cool experience for some of the cast and crew. Yeah. And it's crazy, too, to think that, I think it's like 15,000 queer women all in Palm Springs. It's like so many people. I don't even know. Well, I guess the only thing I could compare it to, which would be different, is San Francisco Pride, which is like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of LGBT people.
Right.
But just to imagine that being queer women all in one spot, it's like I don't know what it's going to be like, but I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
And
I love San Francisco Pride and Dyke March. You know, I think it's like every year. I just think it's the best. So if it's anything like that,
I think I'm really stoked about definitely stoked about the film festival, and then I'm also a fan of poker, so I'm hoping to play some poker. And then I love dancing and I love music, so I'm gonna love all that. And I don't like swimming too much, but I heard the pool parties are great, so I'm gonna attempt to like swimming. I have this irrational fear of water.
I don't think there's gonna be much swimming.
Yeah, probably not a lot of swimming. Just like I don't have to go in the pool, just be around the pool. Yeah. But I heard that I've been asking people, I'm writing an article about tips for people going to Dinah for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And one person said that the pool parties were their favorite thing about the Dinah. So I'm eating different things from different people. But, so I'm looking forward to that a lot, too.
Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely have a fear of being in a bikini in public, but then I think again, you know, there's going to be thousands of people, so I'll be okay.
Yeah, definitely. And so is there, where can people find Dyke Central online?
Information about Dyke Central, you know, the hub is dykecentral.com. So you can go there and learn all of the, you know, the newest updates, and then the pilot episode is on YouTube, and there's a bunch of little teasers and little videos on YouTube. So if you go to the Dyke Central YouTube page, which I think if you just search Dyke Central on YouTube, you'll get to watch a lot of little clips, and you can watch the pilot, and there's a teaser for the new episodes, and eventually episode 2 will be on there too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I was watching all those videos. Those are fun to see.
Oh, awesome.
One of them where I think at first people were in character on a couch. Maybe it's for the crowdfunding campaign. Yeah, and then they started to actually kind of like talk in character, but like about the fundraising. Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah.
So is there anything else that you'd like to share?
No, I mean, we are going to have another Indiegogo fundraiser over the summer. So I hope people support. I guess it is really hard to do, to shoot stuff without a budget. So I hope that if people like it, that they will realize that we need, funds to be able to keep shooting. And yeah, just spread the word, about any show that you like, ours and others, because we really need word of mouth to be able to sustain ourselves. So that's what I would say to people.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk. And for everybody watching, all of the links that we talked about will be in the bottom of the About section of this video. And
awesome.
I'll see you at the Dinah Shore.
See you there.
Okay.
Cool.
Bye.
Okay, bye.